Welcome. My name is Alexander, and I cannot believe I'm saying this, but this is Jewels of the Oracle. This is a puzzle adventure game developed right here in Canada way back in 1993. My family and I played this on CD-ROM even before we played Myst, and I've never been able to get it out of my head, so when I found a custom DOSBox installer for it, I pounced. I'll link the place I got it in the description. Note that you need to run it as an administrator for it to work reliably on Windows 10. This game is almost pure puzzles. There is a story, or a backstory at least, in a format you don't see anymore. It was in the little manual that came in the CD case. Now, I don't have that anymore, but luckily I remembered part of the text after all this time, so I was able to find it online. Part of it runs thus. Only one legacy remains of the civilization known throughout the Fertile Crescent before the Sumerians. People of extraordinary intellect, their pursuits were of the mind instead of conquering and fighting. They built a secret complex to train and practice their skills of logic and reason. It stayed with me all this time because this was the first time I'd ever heard of the Sumerian civilization. I usually credit the Myst games as being a big part of why I'm interested in archaeology, but it's safe to say this game's carrying a lot of the credit too. The game itself starts with finding a door in a cave. Passing through it, you arrive in this chamber centered on a pool. This is the first time you start seeing this triangular emblem. The game interface is point and click. Never seen this cursor design elsewhere. In the Macintosh version we played way back, it was green and orange and looked like a carrot. Anyway, behind that door you'll find an altar graced with this hovering structure made of jewels. Just click on it and...
It has begun. You shall go with me. Our city and our ways will you embrace.
Getting shrapnel wounds from flying crystals aside, this is how you meet the Oracle. Really, the way he's contained inside the gems until he's summoned to start you on a quest, I feel like he's more like a genie than an oracle. His opening words are another thing about this game that's been burned into my brain. I always wondered if the Oracle's face is video of a live actor that's been mapped onto this stone triangle. Looks like it to me. The voice is absolutely perfect. With the Oracle on top of the screen, you head back to the pool room. Now, much like a lot of games of the era, the amount of the screen that's actually doing anything is relatively small. So I'll emulate Ross Scott once again and blow up the main screen most of the time. But he's always there. You can click on him and he appears to have 2 voice lines per room, many of which serve as hints about the puzzles.
The well-planned strategy will leave but one.
Speaking of which, the stones around the pool are arranged in groups of 5 around the one with the Oracle's sigil, and clicking on one depresses the stone and reveals an image in the water. Click again and you're, I think, teleported to another room. And a big part of why this game stuck with me for so long is the environment design. Each puzzle room has a huge amount of personality. Stucco, stonework, wood, painting, and tiling, some of which look photographed, and with artifacts sometimes just sort of lying around as if someone left them there millennia ago and never came back. Because you turn in predetermined directions like Myst, some things are permanently in your peripheral vision, like frescoes on the walls. I honestly think I spend at least as much time trying to find things like this as trying to solve the puzzles. My only regret is that since you teleport from the pool chamber to the other ones, there's no sense of relative place in a larger complex. I'd have gone nuts as a kid trying to turn this into maps or tabletop campaign settings or something. That said, it is a nice touch that some rooms are designed in a way that implies the puzzles aren't their main or original function. As for the puzzles themselves, there's an enormous amount of variety, so much that it's hard to summarize. Games like Myst, Riddle of the Sphinx, or Siberia revolve mostly around variations on the concept of ciphers and combination locks. Heaven's Vault and Chants of Sonar are based on deducing the meanings of glyphs. But Jewels of the Oracle's puzzles don't seem to follow any one theme. Matching and sorting puzzles, mazes, strategic exercises, there's all kinds. Some of them sort of evoke, or just are, games like backgammon, checkers, Sudoku, or Mancala, a game I remember playing at school around the same time as this. Even though I didn't actually solve it on my own as a kid, my favorite one was this concept matching puzzle with a set of artifacts because, hey, cool artifacts. In the drop-down menu where you save, quit, and so on, you can also choose between hard and easy puzzles. I don't think it impacts all the puzzles, and some of them it's honestly hard to see immediately what the difference is, but to give you a sense of things, the first puzzle I did was this beetle-pushing sun orbs puzzle. On easy mode it looks like this, and on hard it looks like this. There's also a number of puzzle rooms where you'll find small objects and collect them, which you bring together in a puzzle room all their own. I'm afraid I find it safer to stick with easy mode, but honestly that doesn't always help. While the puzzles have a lot of variety, the downside of that is that sometimes you can't be sure you even know what the underlying concept behind the puzzle is. Sometimes it's obvious, like the sun beetle puzzle. You obviously have to get all the balls down the chute, and you can only push, so you have to make sure you don't get them stuck against the walls, for example. Other times, I wouldn't have known where to start. Technically, the Oracle hints at the objective if you click on him, but a lot of the clues are so general or cryptic it's no help at all. Like, this one makes sense.
With portals blocked must this puzzle prove, but well-planned progress may the cause remove.
But this one?
Attentive study of the turning of the Divasa will prove that careful study leads to understanding. Only then can the power of prediction be the product of knowledge.
What? You can trial and error some things and can click these bars on either side of the Oracle at any time to reset and start over, or leave and return to the hub chamber and try another one. But some of the puzzles can be lost if you get enough steps wrong, and you'll get really tired of hearing this.
You have no more moves you may take.
Even then, if you ask me, the number of different skills being tested ranges so widely that it feels unreasonable to expect any one person to be able to solve them all. I'm okay at strategy puzzles like this one, where you have to sort the colored balls but can only move 2 at a time. And I maybe could solve this cube maze with enough trial and error, but I don't want one puzzle of a much larger game to ruin my life for a week. My struggles were more pronounced with this puzzle. Now, the clue is obvious. The Oracle calls this
Values of algebra.
So it's algebra. I doubt this diagnosis would hold up now, but as a kid, a professional marked me down as having dyscalculia. The number of puzzles that hinge on fairly advanced math skills is really demoralizing, and I was surprised by how strongly it reawakened the feelings of what slow torture math homework was for me as a kid. If I hadn't had my dad, my Uncle Bob, and an educational assistant helping me, I'd have been sunk. All of which is to say, no shame whatsoever in going to walkthroughs. I can recommend the walkthrough by Zeo Knight on Game FAQs and Erica Redmark on YouTube. Ms. Redmark even goes deep into the math and algorithmic structure of some of the puzzles, so she's a lot smarter than I am. But when you do succeed in completing a puzzle, this happens. And you pick it up, a little like the blue and red pages in Myst. Return to the chamber where the Oracle appeared, and
The tasks resolved so far marked here are 1.
If the puzzles can be a handful, this gives you a good way to keep track of your progress, and along with animating your movement from place to place, helps you orient yourself in the hub chamber. There are 24 puzzles total in 6 sets of 4 represented by the stones around the pool. When you complete a set of 4, the little oracle symbol in their midst fills with water, and if you click it,
the house of Tantram have you come upon, where those who administer equal parts, and manage fair and true.
And for all the frustration of the puzzles, I'm glad to have gone through it because as an adult with a history and archaeology degree to his name, I find the world building might run deeper than I remembered. My favorite puzzle in the game as a kid was this one, just because the room has a map of the ancient city of the civilization that built all this. You can click around the major buildings in Central Courtyard and they have names.
The House of Kazalam. The Court of Convergence and Utsava.
These 6 equal houses are low-key the central aesthetic of the game, with the 6 sets of puzzles and the inlay in the Oracle's chamber, not to mention several of the puzzles themselves echoing that structure. When you complete a set of puzzles, the Oracle's monologues are about one or another of the houses. From what I can glean through the cryptic verse, these aren't houses in the sense of noble families, but more like colleges with different specialties.
Count among them those who control the fields, as well as tend and measure them. With skills and visions both of mind and eye, these members fill the house of Kazalam.
Like I said, it's not clear, but it is tantalizing. I think the city is even named as
this city of Nisus.
In my remarks on Riddle of the Sphinx, I was musing about whether there's a way to do a Lost Empire plot without taking away the achievements of real civilizations. This might be the closest to doing it right you could ask for. This civilization is old and clearly advanced for its era, not to mention the obviously magical aspects, but there's no implication that they were secretly behind anything that other civilizations did. And while the Oracle mentions
the river of the setting sun and the waterway of the rising sun,
pretty much confirming that this is Mesopotamia, you know, the land between 2 rivers, there's an appealing aesthetic blending going on here. The figures you see in a lot of frescoes look Mesopotamian, based on the ones I've seen in museums, but the art style is more Egyptian, maybe a little Minoan. That beetle-pushing sun orbs puzzle certainly evokes Egypt. I can't especially place the style of the artifacts, which gives them a distinctive identity. I always thought this object was a scroll, but I think it's a bone with tally marks, reminiscent of the Paleolithic Ishango bone artifact from the Congo, or Chinese oracle bones maybe. One of the puzzles is in a room that seems to have once been a large bath or cistern that puts me in mind of Roman baths or the big pools in the Indus Valley cities like Mohenjo-Daro. It all comes across as an attempt to synthesize something unique and intriguing, rather than implying that this is the ancestor of every other civilization. The jewels as a metaphor for knowledge and understanding puts me vaguely in mind of jewel symbolism in Buddhism. The city must have had big trade networks to gain such a variety, although it is funny to me that the jewels you retrieve are cut in a way that seems very modern. I'm not an expert, though. Something that jumped out at me on this playthrough is the repeated depiction of horses throughout the puzzles. One of the puzzles is even in what appears to be a disused stable. Considering that, if Wikipedia is to be believed, horses were domesticated on the Eurasian steppes around 3500 BCE and didn't reach Mesopotamia for another 1500 years or so, if this were a real archaeological site, this would be a genuinely big deal. Even as a kid, I always thought the opening titles evoked horses riding through the desert, a la Arabian Nights, Genghis Khan, or T.E. Lawrence. Speaking of which, the music in the game is absolutely magnificent, evoking to my untrained ear Middle East, Indian, and African instrumentation. It sticks with me partly because my dad knew the composer way back when. Unfortunately, while I was able to pull the music files from the CD a while back, it's compressed and tinny due to the limitations of the time, but it's still amazing, as is the sound design. It really adds to the sense of reality. When you put all the gems back, you receive this shard, as the Oracle calls it, and with it you're teleported through the pool into, it would appear, the center of the ancient city. I'm not sure how to interpret this. You can hear crowds of people. Is that just meant to evoke what this place used to be like? Or am I meant to have been sent back in time? Putting the shard on the central plinth wins the game, but what does it mean? The Oracle said,
"You have proven you do belong."
Is this some kind of initiation? And if this is the city, where are these underground chambers I've been solving puzzles in? I wondered if these were rooms in the great houses buried by the march of time, but honestly I don't know. I mean, the hub room has windows letting light in. If this is a stable, it's not well ventilated, and good luck getting a horse through this door. I'm overthinking it. At the end of the day, this is a framing device for rewarding solving a bunch of logic and math puzzles. But there's no denying the creators went the extra mile in creating a background story when the aesthetic design alone would have been enough for a lot of developers. Jewels of the Oracle is way too hard for me, but I keep the walkthroughs to hand and immerse myself in the environments and imagine what this civilization was like, what happened to it, and imagine how many empires came here looking to claim the Jewels of the Oracle.